Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 375 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. In front of the slow winding pavilion, many of the young experts on the prestigious Splendid Youths list and the Divine Talents list found themselves with their eyes wide open. They stared at the scene in front of them dumbfoundedly, watching as Qin Mu pulled his sword from Yun Jinli's body with blood dripping out. One move was all it took. Qin Mu only used one move and defeated the seemingly invincible Yun Jinli. Not only did he defeat him with one attack, he also broke his divine bridge, sending him to the life and death realm from the divine bridge realm. However, this wasn't the most terrifying occurrence, for the most terrifying occurrence was how Yun Jinli's divine bridge divine treasure was obliterated. In other words, Yun Jinli could never cultivate back to the divine bridge realm in this lifetime. He was now stuck as a divine arts practitioner within the life and death realm with no chance of becoming a god. Though, this might not be so bad for Yun Jinli. After all, the male heirs of the Yun family were plagued with a disease that would kill them should they cultivate to the divine bridge realm. Now that Qin Mu had shattered his divine bridge, he might be able to live longer. For other people, however, that fact was too terrifying. The crowd shivered in fear. If they were to face Yun Jinli's move, their chance of victory would be slim. However, they all feared the possibility of failing to dodge Qin Mu's blade, which would leave them to suffer the same fate as Yun Jinli. All of them unavoidably had the scene of Qin Mu's blade stabbing them imprinted into their memory. Regardless of how many times they tried to deduce it, they were still unable to dodge it. Every time, they ended up being stabbed by his blade and having their divine treasures sliced apart. It wasn't only their divine bridge divine treasure, but their other divine treasures as well. The spirit embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, celestial being, and life and death divine treasures, all of them would be sliced apart. That was Qin Mu's full power strike. Suddenly, the lady with the bird head chuckled and said, "I suddenly remembered that I have things to attend to, and thus, I shall leave first. I will come and pay my respects to you, Celestial Venerable, another day. Goodbye." The wings behind her body spread open, while the others started walking away. Qin Mu walked forward while holding Yun Jinli in his arm and said in a clear voice, "Since everyone is already here, why not stay for a while first before leaving? People who don't understand the situation might think that I, Celestial Venerable Mu, don't understand how to properly treat guests, generating rumors." The lady with the bird head, who had intended to fly off, found her body frozen. She didn't dare to move. The others weren't any better off, a delicate cold sweat appearing on their foreheads. Qin Mu smiled gently with red lips and perfect white teeth as he reassured them, saying, "Don't be nervous, everyone, those of us from the lower bound don't eat others." However, from the perspective of the masses, his smile was the pinnacle of terror and evil. Despite them being children favored by heaven on the Splendid Youths list and Divine Talents list, they felt that they were all too powerless to resist that strike of Qin Mu's. That lady with the bird head muttered, "Do people from the lower bound eat half-gods?" Without answering, Qin Mu assisted Yun Jinli onto the island in front of the slow winding pavilion and sighed helplessly. "Brother Yun, I originally intended to kill a bunch of blind young experts from the celestial heavens to establish my authority. Now that you allowed me to strike with my full power, how do I kill them to show off my might now?" The crowd felt a chill down their spines as they looked at him, absolutely engulfed in terror. Qin Mu flashed a simple smile and observed his surroundings, apologizing, "I wasn't talking about killing the bunch of you, so don't worry. What's the purpose of this challenge by you lot?" He looked excitedly at the masses, which silenced them as they shook their heads. Qin Mu remained very disappointed. Yun Jinli's body grew increasingly weaker due to his injury, but even though Qin Mu's strike broke his divine bridge, his expression remained unchanged. It seemed like the one injured wasn't him, as he didn't appear to be disappointed by the decimation of his divine bridge divine treasure. He even laughed and said, "Why strike out against the younger generations to show off your might?" Qin Mu laughed in return. "You're right, it's just that my realm isn't high enough. If it were a god that struck out, I wouldn't be able to defend myself." Yun Jianli continued to cough as he warned the masses, saying, "Don't trust him. He just wants to establish his might by killing gods. If you lot call for your senior brothers, most of them will die at his hands." The masses stared at them, unable to utter a single word. As Qin Mu assisted Yun Jianli to pass through them, Qi Jiui followed them hastily, also assisting Yun Jianli before quietly grumbling, "Cult Master Qin, I think you struck him too harshly. Brother Yun's divine bridge has been sliced apart. It's likely that his family's grandmothers won't forgive you. Everyone in the celestial heavens knows that the widows of the Yun family are the worst people to provoke. Now that you've hurt their precious boy, even if you don't die, you'll likely be skinned alive." Yun Jianli bitterly joked, saying, "My family's grandmothers are so difficult to deal with." Qi Jiui coldly carried on the joke and said, "If you don't know, ask somebody else. Who in the celestial heavens doesn't know that your Yun family's grandmothers guard their younglings dearly? Cult Master Qin, what you have done is akin to attacking a large hornet's nest." Qin Mu replied, "The slicing apart of Brother Yun's divine bridge was intentional, for it allows him to try the results of eternal peace's reform, the celestial river divine treasure. You lot come over too." He signaled for them to come and continued, "Previously, I opened the forum and lectured here to impart the technique to become a god. That was 1,000,000 years ago. Today, I shall do it here again." The people on the Splendid Youths list and Divine Talents list looked at one another, as they reluctantly followed him into the slow-winding pavilion. Qin Mu finished dealing with Yun Jianli's injuries before explaining, "The reason that Celestial Venerable Yun opened the divine bridge divine treasure, then, was due to how there was no other path ahead, after Celestial Venerable Yu opened the life and death divine treasure. Celestial Venerable Yun wanted to pave a path by raising a bridge, so he opened the divine bridge divine treasure. This gave Celestial Venerable Yu inspiration to open the big realm of the Celestial Palace, which gave birth to the story of rising heavenwards to become a god. The divine bridge divine treasure is of critical importance, for without it, there is no realm for the back of the Celestial Palace." Celestial Venerable Yun accomplished a great deed. Yun Jianli remarked, "The Celestial River divine treasure that Celestial Venerable talked about, what's up with that?" Qin Mu explained, "The Celestial River divine treasure is a result of eternal peace's reform. Although the divine bridge divine treasure is usually inherited, it's not always the case. The Celestial River connects all of the worlds, it opens access to life and death and connects to the Celestial Palace. If the divine bridge divine treasure is destroyed to open the Celestial River, it will connect the Celestial Palace with all of the 7 divine treasures, and combine them to form one divine treasure." Yun Jianli's eyes immediately lit up. The masses within the slow-winding pavilion shuddered when thinking about the crux of what Qin Mu said. When the 7 divine treasures combined into one, there would be a sudden surge in vital qi. Anyone below, or in the same realm, would find the cultivation of their vital qi stronger than those who cultivated it normally. Additionally, because of how the divine treasures became one, the circulation of the technique would be faster than the traditional 7 divine treasures. This was because of how traditional techniques required vital qi to start from the spirit embryo divine treasure, in accordance with the technique circulation's guiding paths, before it could flow to the 5 elements divine treasure. Then, it would go through the 5 elements to the 6 directions before reaching the 7 stars, celestial being, life and death, and divine bridge divine treasures. By combining the celestial river divine treasure with the other divine treasures, the vital qi would only circulate in one large divine treasure, which would cut out a lot of unnecessary steps, making it simpler. At the same time, the activation of divine arts would be faster than if one used the traditional 7 divine treasures, which would raise the battle power of divine arts practitioners to a frightening level. After all, they were brilliant youths on the splendid youths list and divine talents list with extraordinary gifts and intelligence, which allowed them to recognize the enormous potential hidden within the celestial river divine treasure. Qin Mu continued, after one cultivates to the celestial palace realm and becomes a god, the importance of the 7 divine treasures cultivated by divine arts practitioners becomes minimal. They essentially become appendages of the celestial palace realm. In the case of the celestial river divine treasure, however, the power of the celestial palace can accommodate that of the divine treasure and bolster its power. The magic power of the user will also be denser than if cultivated traditionally, which is of great benefit to gods as well. The lady with the bird head suddenly interrupted him, asking, "Celestial Venerable, for all the praises you sang about the celestial river divine treasure, why then has the celestial heavens not thought about replacing the divine bridge divine treasure with the celestial river divine treasure?" Qin Mu looked at her and revealed the doubt within him on his face. The lady continued, "I am Qin Mu of the Splendid Youths list, the disciple of Tai Lao." Tai Lao. Qin Mu had never heard of this god and laughed. Which one of the gods of the celestial heavens would care about the divine treasure, after cultivating to the celestial palace realm? It's a mere stepping stone to success. What they care more about is the celestial heavens realm. Once they heard about the celestial heavens realm, all of their thoughts focused on it. As for divine arts practitioners like you, do you lot dare to question your divine masters? Do you lot dare to question the divine treasure cultivation technique they inherited? If any doubts were to be expressed, then there would be a possibility to open the celestial river divine treasure. The masses were stunned before recalling their cultivation process. As the celestial heavens' most outstanding talented youths, they had never thought of getting rid of the divine bridge divine treasure. Their greatest innovations were probably a couple of divine arts of their own creation. To them, every fixed realm was a law that shouldn't be questioned at all. Qin Mu remarked, "It's different in the lower bound. Down there, many people's divine bridge divine treasure was shattered. Hence, countless people researched how to modify the divine treasure, how to break through using current knowledge. Its eternal peace is reform and their refusal to follow the ways of the ancestors, and refusal to worship the ancient gods, the celestial heavens, and the celestial venerables that allowed them to reform and possess the celestial river divine treasure." After the masses heard the word reform, they couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. Suddenly, a youth rose and trembling with a hoarse voice, saying, "I shall listen no more. Forgive me for being timid, Celestial Venerable, I shall take my leave first." Qin Mu asked with concern, "Do you not want to know how to open the celestial river divine treasure?" "I want to." That person's laughter resembled a cry as he protested, "However, I don't dare to listen. I'm afraid that if I listened to your celestial river divine treasure, I would die mysteriously." He turned around and left hastily. Another couple of people also rose and left. Others wanted to leave as well, but the celestial river divine treasure was simply too tempting, which made them hesitate. Qi Jui's eyes lit up as he rose and said, "I'll escort them out." Qin Mu smiled as he continued to lecture on how to open the celestial river divine treasure. The celestial river divine treasure secretly contains the great Tao of heaven and earth, but the human body can only contain 7 divine treasures at best. This necessitates the scraping of the divine bridge. I have pioneered a couple of techniques to understand the power of the celestial river. After scrapping the divine bridge, one can go to the side of the celestial river to utilize my magical power and understand its power. Qin Mu explained the few techniques to understand the celestial river, sowing doubt in many of the younglings in the slow winding pavilion. Although they memorized the technique to understand the celestial river, they dared not try it. Yun gently laughingly said, "Well, then allow a person that's about to die like me try to open the celestial river divine treasure. Qin found it hard to believe and suppressed the noise before saying, Prince Yun, are you sure that you're willing to abandon the divine bridge divine treasure that your ancestor Celestial Venerable Yun opened? Won't you be betraying Celestial Venerable Yun? Yun gently shook his head, rebutting, he wouldn't be so narrow-minded. I think that if he saw Celestial Venerable Mu's Celestial River divine treasure, he would cheer in joy and willingly scrap his own divine bridge divine treasure too. Qin whispered, this is a reform. You must think carefully, reforming constitutes rebelling. Yun gently laughed it off. What fear does a person about to die have? The celestial river had tributaries that flowed into the jade pool, which made the celestial river's power quite dense here too. He immediately tried to utilize the technique of understanding imparted by Qin Mu. He was exceptionally gifted, even more so than the generations of human emperors. Thus, he was able to swiftly grasp the trick and pull the power of the celestial river. All that was seen was that there was a celestial river that gradually formed around him, growing in length. Yun gently accumulated power and waited for the opportune moment to achieve his breakthrough. As time passed, everyone looked at him nervously. If Yun gently could open the celestial river divine treasure, it would mean that the path that Qin Mu pointed out was viable. Soon, the celestial river that orbited Yun gently rushed into his body. Accompanying it was a deafening sound. Yun Jianli's body shook, as a curious rhythm emanated from his body. It was a type of Tao sound, whose rhythm resembled the changing tides of the bursting celestial river. It crossed through worlds, from the celestial heaven's celestial palace to the human world, before heading to the ruins of End and Yudu. Such a mesmerizing rhythm made people indulge in it uncontrollably. Yun Jianli was both surprised and pleased as he obsessively inspected his own divine treasure. The water from the celestial river soon drained from the celestial palace, and pierced through all of his divine treasures, flowing into Yudu to form one large cycle. Do we have to cultivate the celestial river divine treasure too? Qin mumbled. Others were excited to try, but deep worries within them prevented them from doing so. Qin Mu said with deep meaning, everyone here has a choice on whether to cultivate the celestial river divine treasure or not. However, if one day, the celestial heavens were to declare war on the lower bound, you lot will die at the hands of the lower bound. You lot here can cultivate the celestial river divine treasure too, but the people who desire your lives will become your divine masters, or other gods instead. Qin felt a chill before she laughed. Don't try to scare us, Celestial Venerable. Our masters can reopen the celestial river divine treasure too. Them opening the celestial river divine treasure. Qin Mu laughed heartily. They would have to change their own techniques from the spirit embryo divine treasure. If they happen to fail, they would have to restart via reincarnation, which would require them to give up their current statuses and even lives. The reason that the celestial heavens want to eradicate the lower bound is that they don't want to change at all. Serenity surrounded the slow winding pavilion. Qin and others sunk into silence, their faces revealing the complex emotions and dilemmas within. The celestial river divine treasure moved them, but Qin Mu's extremely convincing speech moved them more. Qin Mu wasn't wrong. The reason that the celestial heavens looked at reforms in a hostile fashion wasn't that they were afraid that their rule would be threatened by the lower bounds. Considering its scale, even if eternal peace was given thousands of years, it wasn't the celestial heavens' opponent. The reason that the celestial heavens viewed reforms with hostility was that those in power within the celestial heavens couldn't attain any benefits from them. If they supported or ignored it, the foundation of their rule would be shaken. If they accepted the reform, they would very likely fall and be taken advantage of by political enemies. Even if they didn't reincarnate, they would still have to alter their own techniques and comprehend them again, which was akin to starting from scratch. The energy needed to reform was too large, and the time taken was too long. What if some new youngling surpassed them during this period? What if they were replaced by some new youngling? Why would they be willing to hand over their power and position? If they ignored the reform, that would constitute a replacement of the old gods with new ones, and these new gods would be stronger than them, the old gods. Eventually, they would be overthrown, just like how they overthrew the reign of the ancient gods. Hence, the simplest way to deal with reforms was to treat them like a betrayal, a rebellion to be purged. Only then could they ensure the longevity of their reign, and that they wouldn't fall, as it made sure that there was no chance of being replaced by future generations. Even though they understood, Qin Mu and the others faced a difficult dilemma. Should they cultivate the celestial river divine treasure? Should they accept eternal peace's reform? If they didn't accept it, they would die on the battlefield in the future, since the benefits of the celestial river divine treasure couldn't be matched by the traditional divine bridge divine treasure. If they met someone who had opened the celestial river divine treasure on the battlefield in the future, they would certainly be eliminated. However, accepting the reform would mean that their sects would no longer tolerate them. The elders of their sects would immediately change sides and eliminate them and their clansmen. THG entered the pavilion and sat down quietly. The scent of blood was oozing from him. Those in the pavilion were shocked. THG had said that he was going to send off those who left, and now, the scent of blood was oozing from his body. The likelihood was that they had died. Qin Mu appeared curious, so THG explained, "They have been dealt with." The celestial heavens clearly had the intent to kill Celestial Venerable Mu when they ordered them here. Thus, they were to die at the hands of Celestial Venerable Mu. Qin Mu frowned and questioned, "Why did you kill them? Couldn't you just let them go?" THG smugly replied, "Let them go. Cult Master Qin, were you hoping to use them to disrupt the celestial heavens? You underestimate it. After they leave, anyone that dared to come to the Jade Pool will die mysteriously. Not one will live, including me." Qin Mu and the others felt scared as their hearts turned cold. Qin Mu asked, concerned, "Was it dealt with cleanly?" "Very clean, their souls were dispersed." THG continued with a tinge of pride, "There's no need to doubt my abilities, Cult Master Qin. Ever since I opened the Celestial River Divine Treasure, I have improved by leaps and bounds. Their divine arts were all outclassed. In the past, I may not have been a worthy opponent to them, but now, they couldn't even take a hit from me." Behind him, a 9-headed phoenix appeared atop the celestial river. Its primordial spirit was arrogant and conceited, and the phoenix itself was abnormally vicious as it said, "They were killed by Celestial Venerable Mu." They challenged Celestial Venerable Mu, but they didn't know of Celestial Venerable Mu's fiendish nature, which led to him obliterating their primordial spirits directly. "I believe Celestial Venerable Mu won't mind such a charge, right?" Qin Mu smiled. "I don't care, I can bear that." THG observed his surroundings, his eyes carrying a sinister aura. He comforted everyone, saying, "Everyone can relax. They have been killed by me. Even if you cultivate the Celestial River Divine Treasure, no one will know." A young man murmured, "What if one of us here doesn't cultivate the Celestial River Divine Treasure?" THG stopped talking, and the 9-headed phoenix behind him flapped its wings, which radiated flames. In despair, that man pleaded, "We certainly can't hide the fact that we opened the Celestial River Divine Treasure from our sect brothers and our masters. My master is the Heavenly King of the Celestial Heavens too." Yun gently interrupted him. "You can go to the primordial realm." Everyone was stunned, confused by the purpose of his speech. Yun gently continued, "Going to the primordial realm is a way to live, as it will allow everyone here to avoid being detected by their sects. Additionally, there's eternal peace's reform in the lower bounds, which allows one to absorb more of the reform's benefits. After witnessing the capabilities of Celestial Venerable Mu, I too would like to head down." Staying in the celestial heavens is akin to watching the sky from a well, making one narrow-minded and limited in knowledge, unable to experience true heaven and earth. My generation of divine arts practitioners are also seekers of the path. Since the celestial heavens is a dead world where the high gods hold on to their positions of power, reluctant to improve, I see no hope in staying in the celestial heavens. Thus, why not head down below? Qin rose and laughed. Celestial Venerable Mu, Yun Jianli, and the savage with 9 brains, we will meet again in the primordial realm. Suddenly, she stopped, turned, and vaguely smiled at a silent youth in the pavilion that wore a yellow shirt. She then said, Prince Yu, you are a member of the royal family, and thus, it's impossible that you would support the reform, right? It's also impossible for you to cultivate the celestial river divine treasure, right? That youth with the yellow shirt's expression changed rapidly, and he rose immediately. In a state of alarm, he rebutted, What are you talking about, Sister Jingxue? I have no chance of being the emperor, no matter how high my level of cultivation is. Celestial Emperor doesn't age and doesn't die. Naturally, I am to be rebellious. I support the reform. Well said. Although I don't trust you. Qin laughed and called on the others, saying, All of us here are on the Splendid Youths list and Divine Talents list, and it's clear that we all need to dirty our hands in order to feel assured. Otherwise, should the news break out that we have cultivated the celestial river divine treasure, none of us will live. Those in the pavilion rose. The youth in the yellow shirt knew that the situation was bad for him, so he immediately rose into the air and attempted to bust out of the roof of the slow-winding pavilion and escape from the top. The moment his body moved, nearly everyone in the slow-winding pavilion acted as well. One by one, figures flashed as countless divine arts were activated to crush the youth in the yellow shirt. His primordial spirit didn't escape either, being completely obliterated by them. It took a long time for tranquility to be restored after everyone landed with their clothes still fluttering. Qin Mu, THG, and Yun Jianli watched the scene silently, refusing to intervene by stopping it or speaking. Qin wiped her hands clean and stared deeply into Qin Mu's eyes, probing him by saying, Prince Yu challenged Celestial Venerable Mu, and was killed by him in the slow-winding pavilion. Qin Mu nodded and acknowledged her, saying, I killed him. Many thanks for the blessing of the Celestial Venerable. Qin kowtowed to Qin Mu before she rose and left. The others followed suit. Within the pavilion, only Qin Mu, THG, and Yun Jianli were left, while outside of it, Yang and the dragon Qilin stood guard. Qin Mu was the first to break the silence, sighing. When I came to the celestial heavens, I intended to kill people to show off my might and greatly disrupt the celestial heavens. Unexpectedly, not only did I not kill a single person, but I have to take the blame for killing many whom I didn't kill. Yun Jianli coughed as the black qi between his eyebrows became denser, remarking, This is where Celestial Venerable Mu's power lies. Celestial Venerable, in a short while, you removed over 20 talents from the Splendid Youths list and the Divine Talents list. All of them were talents painstakingly groomed by the celestial heavens' heavenly kings, celestial venerables, and ancient gods, and all of them were forced and manipulated to rebel against them. I am curious, what exactly did you do in the primordial realm? Qin Mu's spirits rose as he leaned over and asked, Brother Yun, have you heard of the heavenly saint cult? You see, the reason that Brother Qi always refers to me as Cult Master Qin, is that I'm the heavenly saint cult's master. Are you interested, Brother Yun? Yun Jianli laughed before coughing violently again. Qin Mu felt shaken in his heart as his third eye opened wide. After some examination, he concluded, after you opened the celestial river divine treasure, your power increased greatly. Thus, you are now nearer to your death date. Yun Jianli smiled in reply. Although my death will come soon, your death is sooner. Now that you took responsibility for so many lives, there will be high gods coming after you. Qin Mu leisurely replied, there are a lot of people that want me dead in the celestial heavens, but there are also a lot of people that wish to avoid that. This is because of how I'm not only Celestial Venerable Mu, and one of the 3 heroes of eternal peace's reform, but also the invincible Great Wizard. People who wish for me to live will protect me after witnessing my power during our battle. The unbreakable celestial heavens will break into 2, because of my arrival. The feud between them will grow deeper and more obvious. Yun gently felt a chill down his spine before he sighed. I now understand why you insisted on coming to the celestial heavens, even at the risk of your life. If you remained in the primordial realm, the conflict within the celestial heavens could be suppressed. However, your arrival aroused the internal conflicts within the celestial heavens, causing them to explode and fracture the celestial heavens. After this, the celestial heavens will no longer focus on the lower bounds, and will instead focus on handling the internal crisis. Celestial Venerable Mu, are your schemes always so deep? Qin Mu vaguely smiled as he said, down below, what we have are old and experienced wanderers. I was played by these wanderers to help kickstart the eternal peace calamity. What I'm doing now is nothing compared to that. Outside the door, the dragon Qilin called out, Cult Master, Lady Yun Chuxiu has arrived. They immediately changed topics as Qin Mu told him, I ordered people to arrange rooms for the both of you. It would be great for both of you to stay here temporarily. Yun Chuxiu's arrival at the slow winding pavilion was a showcase of her energetic nature. She was always busy surrounding herself with Qin Mu and Qi Jiui, while Qi Jiui tried to have her by his side, which made her feel harassed. Yun Jianli's condition grew to become more desperate due to his dense cultivation, so Qin Mu was forced to cultivate the Supreme Palace enclosure higher knowledge faster to strengthen his consciousness, to prepare for his refining of the cure for Yun Jianli's bloodline curse. His consciousness grew stronger and stronger, and after his modification of the Supreme Palace enclosure higher knowledge, the speed of his cultivation superseded his expectations. Not much longer, and I will be able to try and break Yun Jianli's bloodline curse. Suddenly, the sky slowly turned dark, and Qin Mu was forced to stop his cultivation and exit the slow winding pavilion quickly. The slow winding pavilion was Celestial Empress' residence, and should be eternally radiant. It was impossible for the sky here to turn dark. Yet, at this moment, the celestial bodies of the sky turned dark, and the stars faded. The sky's color resembled that of dusk. Many of the slow winding pavilion's palace maids emerged, and some hastily looked for lanterns to hang up. Yun Jianli, Yun Chuxiu, and Qi Jiui also walked out to look at the sky. In the sky, the sun also slowly faded away while the moon dimmed. As the moonlight became impossible to observe, the stars disappeared from the sky, the color of night becoming denser and denser. Is this the case for the entire celestial heavens? A palace maid shouted. Or is it only the sky above the jade pool? The other palace maids were busy lighting up lanterns and hanging them, so no answers came. The number of lights in the slow winding pavilion grew, and it became extremely striking in the darkness. Yun Jianli realized the situation, and ran to the slow winding pavilion, shouting, this isn't good. Don't light up the lanterns. Quickly extinguish them. Qin Mu restrained him and said, don't be so anxious, brother Yun, let's see which side is more powerful. A cold sweat broke out on Yun Jianli's forehead, as Yun Chuxiu curiously examined her surroundings, before exclaiming, there's something approaching in the Jade Sea. Something came from the tributary of the Celestial River, and entered the Jade Sea. In the darkness, waves suddenly rose from the Jade Sea's surface, and towered over the sky. It was as tall as the wall that connected heaven and earth and approached the slow winding pavilion at a terrifying speed. Catcher! Countless instances of lightning and thunder flashed and rumbled in the sky. The entire jade pool had been secretly blanketed by dark clouds, and within it, sparks appeared suddenly. The sparks grew brighter and brighter, and they lit up the dark clouds so much that it looked like they were going to burn them. Soon, from the clouds, a sinister face belonging to a heavenly king with a curly mustache was spotted. The lightning formed his mustache, and it spread out in all directions, looking as if it was a chaotic dance by curly dragons. It was unspeakably terrifying. The heavenly king of lightning with the curly mustache looked down at the huge waves on the jade sea below, and suddenly opened his twisted mouth and released an earth-shattering roar that made the waves crumble. A huge object rose from the ocean, and the dragon roar from it shook the ground. An incomprehensibly large island, that was both black and green in color, rose from the bottom of the ocean. Qin Mu looked at the terrifying sight in front of him, and his gaze grew ever brighter before he muttered, "How to acquire a turning point and drag a sun from the celestial heavens?" Yun Chuxiu heard that and turned to look at him, appearing to be confused. Qin Mu smiled at her, and Yun Chuxiu, in return, smiled back sweetly. Part 375 end here. Thank you for watching.